Violent clashes continue between pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. Police, as demonstrators took to the streets for the 20th straight weekend. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley recently went to Hong Kong to get a first-hand look at what's happening there and joins us to discuss. Senator, we see the protests taking place in no massive Tiananmen Square-like crackdown. Does that mean they're making progress?
Well, I wish that were the case, Brian, but in fact, the government there in Hong Kong, which is not elected, by the way, this is a pro-Beijing government essentially installed by Beijing, continues to suspend the right to protest. They won't grant protest permits. They're using violent tactics, brutal tactics, to disperse the protesters. They won't submit to the right to vote. Hong Kong is becoming a police state, and that's bad news for us because we know what China's capable of. They've been ripping us off our jobs for years. This is bad news.
What can we do about it?
Well, we've got to stand up and keep the pressure up. You know, President Trump having the trade pressure on China has actually helped Hong Kong. It's actually helped keep Beijing in check. We've got to continue to keep pressure up, say, we're not just going to watch Hong Kong get steamrolled, because next it'll be Taiwan, and then it'll be the region. And we know what China wants to ultimately do is shut us out of the region and take away all of our jobs, our ability to trade.
The NBA was a learning moment, wasn't it? That was not just about basketball. It was about the power and arrogance and oppression. They think if they write the check and they have this market, they could start telling us what to do on every level.
Yeah, exactly right. And this is how Beijing plays ball. They tighten the screws, and now they want to censor Americans. I mean, the thing about the NBA is here they're trying to tell Americans what we can and cannot say. And my word to the NBA is, don't become part of the Chinese Communist Party's propaganda arm. Have a little independence. Stand up for yourself. Same message to Apple. Quit cooperating with Beijing. I see Tim Cook now is going to join the board of a Chinese state-run university. I hope he's going to be teaching on human rights in Tiananmen Square. It's time for some of these multinational corporations to get a little backbone.
Absolutely, and they got to start embarrassing them by putting the spotlight on them, and maybe people will be too embarrassed to work for them. Senator, you also took a little umbrage at the fact that the Department of Agriculture was going to move out to Missouri to save some money. And guess how it was pursued, how it was portrayed? As punishment. That bothers you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the state of Missouri, I am grateful every single day to be a Missourian. It's a wonderful place to live and to raise a family. And to have these D.C. bureaucrats say that moving to Missouri is a form of punishment, that the only reason to do it is just to somehow get back at USDA employees, I mean, that's unbelievable. Look, if they don't want to go to Missouri, that's fine. They don't have to work for USDA. But there are lots of folks in the Midwest, in the Kansas City region, and all over my state who would love to have these jobs. Let them compete.
And finally, the USMCA. Suddenly, Chad Pergram's reporting this morning there's been a slowdown. They might not have a vote on it. How is that possible? Both sides agree on just about everything.
I got two words for you. Nancy Pelosi. That's how it's possible. All of this is being held up by her. The Senate would pass it in a heartbeat. Nancy Pelosi won't bring it to the floor. And why? Because it's the impeachment circus full-time, all the time over in the House. Nothing's happening there, Brian. And the reason is they are hell-bent on impeaching this president. They're willing to throw anything aside.
What would it mean to you in 20 seconds? What would it mean for Missouri if they passed it?
You know, we've got Canada and Mexico are our two largest trading partners in the state of Missouri. This is a good deal for Missouri. We need it.
The country needs it. It would be something you guys have suffered long enough because of this standoff, especially with China. This is something we all agree on. It's inexcusable if it doesn't get passed, or at least a vote. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for making that trip to Hong Kong, because they're flying American flags. We cannot look the other way.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Brian.
Good job.